The Boys Season 5 Episode 6 was probably the most consequential episode of the entire franchise because so much happened here. Spoiler warning in case you haven't watched it yet, but Hughie and Annie exposed their plan to their enemies. Sister Sage defected to the boys, and Homelander finally injected himself with V1, although that's not something we're proud of predicting. We were really hoping he wouldn't. So now that the stage is set for the final 2 episodes of The Boys, what will happen to them? Well, we're here to discuss what might happen in one of them, at least. So without further ado, these are our predictions for The Boys Season 5, Episode 7 Explained.
Plenty of fish in the sea, bro.
The Deep's slightly possible redemption. When we saw Deep kill Ambrosius and eat sushi, we thought we'd lost him to the dark side forever. From Season 4 onwards, Deep has been spiraling deeper and deeper into the abyss that is Homelander's sphere of influence, unintended. But Episode 6 offered a glimpse of a slight, albeit bloody chance at redemption for him because he's realized that everything he's done so far is inconsequential. Deep killed the top-ranking US diplomat so Homelander could get his foot in the door of Congress. He ate Timothy to prove he was loyal to Homelander. He brought him friggin' Stan Edgar of all people and even agreed to advocate for an oil pipeline that he knew would put many marine life forms' lives at risk, all because he wanted Big Homie's approval and was scared of dying. He adopted that kill first, ask questions later mentality since it was the only thing keeping him safe. But when the Bering Strait oil pipeline blew up and he failed to do anything about it, and it got 1.4 billion of his aqueous friends killed, he finally realized who he really is. The man who champions ecological causes because he genuinely cares about them. Episode 6 finally brought Kevin Moskowitz back into the picture, and though it came at the cost of Black Noir 2's life, we're sort of glad he finally admitted Noir 2 was never his bro. That's the signal we'd been waiting to receive when it comes to whether Deep's drowned in the sauce of power, and turns out he hasn't. If he had, he'd have recorded his latest Manosphere podcast and kept going a good corporate soldier for the new Vought. Instead, he chose to murder his toxic co-host and fled the scene. It is ironic that a fish holocaust is what it took for him to realize how far he's fallen from grace. But the fact that he called aquatic life his friends again after such a long time is in and of itself a major relief. That look on his face when Jeremy told him he and the rest of all marine life knew Deep okayed the pipeline's creation says it all. It tells us that deep within him, he's always wanted to resist Homelander's regime, and now those thoughts are being translated into actions. There is always a chance that he will just cover back to his ringmaster with his tail tucked between his legs. But if there was ever a time for Deep to grow a spine, it's now, and killing Black Noir 2 could just be the first step. The next step is for him to go ahead and join the ever-growing resistance against his former supreme leader, which won't even need a big nudge. Homelander consuming V1 is only going to make him see Deep as being even more expendable than before, and once that sinks into Deep's consciousness, he will most likely stop his foolish and dangerous antiques and start being what he really is. The Lord of the Seas and defender of oceanic life. It won't wash away all his previous crimes, but it will give him a slate upon which he can rebuild his self-view, and that itself is redemption for his character. Run. The final piece of dialogue from The Boys Season 5 Episode 6 was perhaps the most chilling thing about it, because we never thought that we'd hear Billy Butcher of all people choosing flight over fight. But he has, and it makes sense. The man he was trying to mortally wound is now immortal. The soup virus is still going to work on all soups with V2 in their veins, but it's pretty much dud when it comes to Homelander and Soldier Boy. They're the two people that need to be gone from this world, and if the virus doesn't work on them, then we're not sure releasing it would make any sense. Most other soups only obey them out of fear, and that fear can be used to turn them against Big Homie and his bigger daddy. But to make that happen, our heroes will need proper planning and preparation, and that requires time. Time that they might not have anymore. Butcher telling the boys and Sister Sage to make a break for it is the clearest signal we've gotten about the end times, and we've gotten it. So now, the question becomes where they're going to hide out. There are 2 possible locations, of course. One is Sage's bunker, and the other is Stan Edgar's bunker. Both are Homelander proof as far far as X-ray vision is concerned, so that's not going to be an issue. Edgar's bunker location is compromised thanks to Dognot, but that isn't even the biggest issue at this point. The biggest issue is who else is going on to run, because in our minds, it's everyone associated with Starlight, and some of them haven't been seen for 6 whole episodes. The trailer for Season 5 showed Annie January telling the Gen V cast to run as well, and it looks like that is what the ending of Episode 6 was a setup for. Considering Gen V has been cancelled by Amazon, we can't think of any other way for Eric Kripke and his team to close out all those plot threads, and we know that those things would have been decided well before Season 5 started airing, but there's a reason Marie Moreau and her crew were sent to defend Starlighters at the end of Gen V Season 2. We'll be seeing the entire Resistance in Episode 7 because if that doesn't happen now, it won't matter later. And speaking of characters from Gen V, Homelander's mind control program. The most interesting thing about Episode 6 was the moment where Hughie and Annie broke into the Democratic Church of America's headquarters and noticed a wall of black and white pictures. This wall, which Hughie identified as having images of almost every psychic in America, puzzled both him and Annie, but not us, and the reason for that is quite simple. We saw a familiar face on it. One of the people Homelander is seemingly gathering for his next speech, where he declares himself the new god after already identifying himself as a prophet, happens to be a Resistance member. Her name is Kate Dunlap, and when we saw her face on that wall, we realized the term psychic wasn't referring to a tarot card reader. Hughie was talking about soups with psychic abilities. The fact that Kate's picture is on the Democratic Church's wall suggests one of two things. Either she is lying to everyone around her by playing nice with them, or convincing them she has actually become a good person, or Homelander doesn't really know about her defection. In any case, that picture alone is quite disconcerting, because it ties into another theory that's been floating around since another character was introduced to Season 5, that being O-Father. Ever since people realized that O-Father has the ability to manipulate his own voice, they've been wondering whether he's been using it to manipulate those around him, specifically Homelander. Homie heard Angel Madeline for the first time at an event where O-Father sang. After all, it's possible that his brain became scrambled eggs in that moment, but if you asked us, the Wall of Psychics reveals a chilling second layer to that initial theory, which is that Homelander is not leaving matters up to fate or chance anymore. He'll be engineering loyalty to himself, and Kate Dunlap is definitely the kind of person he'd need onto his team to make that happen. Even if he doesn't have her specifically, there were at least 100 pictures on that wall, so it doesn't matter whether she's with him or not when it comes to this particular part of the prospective mind control program. As long as he has O-Father's voice and scores of psychic soups on his side, Homelander can use them however he sees fit. It's already become evident to us that he is finally thinking for himself and not just relying on external brains to do his thinking for him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have hidden his search for V1 from Sage. It's terrifying how mentally sharp he's become in the last 2 episodes alone, and with this mind control program, his aim is most likely to remove the opposition he's already facing from the American public. Sage once told him that he needs the people to sing his praises and spread his gospel, and now that Homelander is positioning himself as God, those worshippers are required in ever-increasing amounts. That is why we think that the next step for him is to use the speech he's about to give at the church, the one Annie and Hughie were about to lace with a virus, to initiate his program. And once that happens, only the real God will be able to save America and by extension the world. What is Phase 3? Queen Maeve's possible return. One of the biggest mysteries about Sister Sage's plan for the world has been the phases she keeps referring to. Thanks to everything that's happened in Season 5 so far, we now know that breaking down and building up Homelander pretty much covered Phases 1 and 2. She took his side, spread sweet lies through his mind, and made him believe he was ready to do the kind of things he's clearly not equipped for doing. Sage has had access to Vought's resources for at least a year by this point, and there's no telling how she's been using those resources privately. In fact, as soon as Bashley confirmed that Homelander was looking for V1, Soldier Boy knew where it was, and that he'd started warming up to his kid. Sage told her it was time for her to leave, and she cut out her tracking chip. She didn't even think about doing that when she was with Thomas Godolkin, and that was supposed to be a secret from Homie. Plus, we now know that the only reason she has a bunker in the first place is so that she can engineer a global apocalypse and weather it out all by her lone lonesome, which tells us that Phase 3 is most likely Sage's plan for causing a true global genocide, not one that's restricted to the soup population. Sage's issue with humanity didn't begin with soups after all. They began when she tried to save her grandmother's life and human doctors refused to accept her cure for cancer as a viable option because she was just a little girl. She wants to kill everyone, both humans and soups, and to that end, she most likely has weapons stashed all across the globe that she can release with something as simple as the press of a button. Otherwise, she won't be able to read in silence, and Sage's whole plan is to make the world permanently silent. But the fact that she has all this noted down in a brave Maeve notebook also hints at a broader possibility that Maeve herself might make a brief cameo appearance in episode 7. After all, she and Elena disappeared off the face of the earth at the end of season 3, and if the boys and the rest of the gang wanted a hideout that was truly out of the public eye, that's where they should go. Yes, Maeve doesn't have powers anymore, but she's also the only person that Homelander wouldn't think of having survived. Plus, Sage has already demonstrated a knack for locating soups that most of the world can't seem to find when she lured Bombsight out of hiding. As for what kind of weapons she's looking to use, we might have an idea, because the only contingency available. Apart from Ryan Butcher and Marie Moreau, whom we've discussed at length in previous videos, the only real contingency anyone has to contain Homelander is something we've already seen him succumbing to, and that's nuclear radiation. In Season 5, Episode 4, which they were hunting for V1 in Fort Harmony, Soldier Boy temporarily locked Homelander inside a chamber with massive amounts of nuclear material in it. The chamber was designed during Frederick Vought's days, so you know it can work on people with V1 as well. Both Ryan and Marie might have a tough time killing Homelander now that he is immortal and his powers have received an upgrade, because that's exactly what him shooting his lasers into the sky was all about. If you thought he was all powerful before, you don't even want to imagine what he can do now. But the one thing that can still kill him is a good old-fashioned nuke, and this is where the comics and Ashley's statements from back when Bashley was revealed become relevant. In the comics, it was made quite clear early on that all soups are vulnerable to nukes. And when Bashley was revealed, Ashley started thinking about all the ways in which she could use her power as the vice president to stop Homelander's reign of terror. If she can get her hands on the nuclear launch codes without alerting any of his political and military allies, she might just become the person upon whom the fate of the world rests. Because as things stand right now, a teenager and a young adult will have nearly the kind of juice that's needed to take out both Homelander and his daddy. And we expect that once she wakes up from her chloroform-induced nap, Ashley will realize exactly what we've just said and start setting things into motion for the ultimate finale. But as for this video, we hope you enjoyed it, because these are all the predictions we've got for you guys for The Boys Season 5 Episode 7. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more The Boys content. One last time, we'll see you real soon with yet another video, so until then, stay safe and have a great day.